Director and Governance Consultant at County Governance Watch. I mean, listening to the Treasury Cabinet Secretary, he says, I mean, governors, why are you saying you don't have money? Because you've given the money. What is the disconnect between what you're saying with COG and what is happening at Treasury?
Thank you so much. No, the disconnect here is mis and distrust. And really the challenge as to why these two arms of government, so rather these two levels of governments, cannot be able to sit together and speak. Why is it that the Council of Governors are making their press release from Delta House, 10th floor, and the CS Treasury is doing the same from Treasury Building? There has to be a mechanism through which these government officials can be able to sit. And indeed, those mechanisms are there. For instance, we have the summit, which is chaired by His Excellency the President. We have the IBEC, the Intergovernmental Budget and Economic Committee, which is chaired by the Deputy President, which is actually attended by all the governors. The challenge that we see is in delay of execution of recommendations and proposals that have been made. So that, for instance, why this is happening right now is because we have had promissory notes made from the previous financial years that have not been met up to date. So that, for instance, you hear governors talking about 20 billion, and part of that resource is actually in monies which are still held by national government, either through what we call roads maintenance and fuel levy, or even through functions that should have actually been fully devolved to counties. Of course, there are other issues that relate to this, but the challenge is in the inability of our government officials to sit together and agree, so that when they sit with the CS will be able to tell them, but this is what we approved. And then the controller of budget, because there are institutions and mechanisms where the National Treasury can sit together with the controller of budget and also with the Council of Governors, where governors speak from. And then all of them put their facts and figures on the table, and these challenges are addressed. Largely from our analysis and point of view, politics being played.
Politics is part of life. I mean, it's the art of sharing resources, so we need to fine-tune that. Talking about the challenge now that comes with withdrawal of the finance bill, that brought in a new conundrum in regards to how we're going to divide our revenues. And there we had a bill. For national government, the bill was passed, assented. For county governments, that is still in Parliament. Again, is it lack of goodwill, lackluster? Because counties are suffering from a cash crunch rather.
Precisely, no, and it has to be noted that the people who are suffering, as we've heard from the Council of Governors, or the governors of the council, is that it is the employees, county officials, and largely the citizens who depend on counties for services to be delivered. But also remember that even as we talk about issues of the National Assembly and the Senate, we have also not done very well as a country, even despite the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024-2025, insofar as meeting our revenue targets are concerned. Remember that the cost of doing business in mega sectors that drive the economy of Kenya has really gone very high. We also noted, of course, take note of companies, streams of employment and revenue generation that have been closed in our country based on ease of doing business and the context of the economy. We are also talking about the government of Kenya having gone beyond its debt capacity. And we are doing over, I think, negative 12 trillion, which is beyond the capacity that is expected. Part of these are resources that really get scooped from what we are able to generate. But also to note that even as we talk about the debt and all these other issues, we have also not done very well in terms of meeting those targets of revenue, both at county government levels, because we also see in terms of governors and their counties, bringing up revenue targets that relate to what we call on-source revenue, and most of them have not been very deliberate in terms of meeting those targets. At the national government level, of course, KRA is also seemingly struggling, and we keep seeing those reports every day in terms of their targeting for revenue. And so those also contribute to the inability of governments to undertake their responsibilities. But then the question that begs is, why is it working for national government And we don't see complaints like this from national government ministries, departments, and agencies, but it is not working for county governments. That is really where the question is. And remember that the Constitution faithfully dictates that at least 15% of revenue that is collected annually, so the totality of what we raise needs to go to counties, so that even as Mheshimiwa Mbadi is talking about the faithfulness that his ministry has deployed in terms of ensuring that counties have monies up to October. And we thank him for coming to Treasury, because we have seen certain positive aspects being invited and being meted at Treasury. Yes. But then the question is in borrowing up from what is lagging behind. Because even as we talk about 2024-2025 financial year, we also have lapses of monies that should have been disbursed to counties, which is partly why the governors are raising these concerns.
Definitely. I mean, just looking at the numbers, because the council say that they are owed 63.5 billion shillings from October, November, and October-November funds also have to be released. But Treasury came up and said they have released 30.8 billion, just looking at the number. Now the total disbursement they have done so far, even including what was pending for June, that is from the previous financial year, is 158 billion shillings. But how to survive? Because issue of delayed disbursement has first counties year in, year out. What is the solution? Is it pegged on goodwill, or now we have to go big on self-sustainability at the county level with on-source revenue?
Yeah, good question. So those really cement what we must do. Number one is political goodwill and financial fiducious goodwill from national government to be able to disburse these resources. Because remember that even as Mheshimiwa Mbadi talks about the control of budget and issues that relate to that, purely around the green light to be able to spend those resources that come from Treasury, which is small but also a big thing that governors and the Council of Governors and even Treasury can work together with the Office of the Control of Budget. But largely speaking is goodwill from the owners of devolution. So the owners of devolution are Kenyans, but these Kenyans have surrendered this sovereignty to own devolution to a certain select group of people. Now that goodwill needs to begin from His Excellency the President. The President has to be seen to be a lover of devolution and someone who is committed to ensure that in his legacy as the President of Kenya, that devolution has worked, so that we do not see these perennial issues. And as you rightfully said, it is not new. In fact, there's a time in it was 2015, 2016, 2021, 2022, when governors actually took the national government to court. And there are many, many recommendations that were made. The second issue that we must do, in addition to political goodwill, is indeed on-source revenue. So counties must also begin to think through how they'll be able to self-sustain, so that this over-reliance on national treasury, even beyond the constitutional expectation of equitable share, but then how can we be able to enhance and strengthen our own revenue streams? And of course, out of the 47 counties, in the last State of Devolution address and in the analysis that we have done at County Governance Watch, about 13 counties have really done very well, and they've surpassed the 100% point in terms of raising their own revenues. But then we must ask ourselves, what is it that they are doing that other counties need to do, and what is it that the national government also needs to do? And part of this is of course in still claiming certain functions, for example, health, housing, water, agriculture, a number of them that are still held by the national government, so that we push those counties to those functions to counties and then build their capacity. But then, even as we talk about on-source revenue, Noah, there is also the requisite responsibility of the county assemblies also to support devolution by ensuring that they pass effective legislations that support the executive arm of governments now to levy taxes on those streams, because there are lots of lapses that maybe our listeners might not understand, and also the time that we have. But therefore it calls for interagency, intergovernmental collaboration to ensure that all hands are on deck to make devolution work.
Beautiful. Wouldn't have put it better. Thank you very much, Kevin, for your input. Kevin Osido is the Executive Director, County Governance Watch, and he says that goodwill, first of all. Secondly, on-source revenue, but interagency collaboration to make sure that everything is working as it should. And finally, if a function was supposed to be devolved, please, national government, make sure that that is done effectively. With that said, that's where we put a full stop to today's show. Thank you very much for being with us over the past 30 minutes. I'm Noki Kimboy. Happy International Men's Day. Up next is View. Stay tuned.